What's going on, Box Bros? It's the Box Man here, back again with another deep dive into Star Wars. I'm thinking of calling this series The Real Star Wars, where we'll discuss the true essence of Star Wars and not that crap that Disney tries to throw at us every so often. In today's video, we're focusing on Revan, the legendary Jedi/Sith from Knights of the Old Republic. Originally, before the time of Swtor, Revan's story ended in a complete mystery that left us all pondering what their fate could be. When Swtor came along ultimately, I wouldn't say that they handled Revan's story with the finesse that it deserved. It felt like they turned an enigma into an MMO side quest. Now, as you all know, my opinion is the canon opinion when it comes to Star Wars. In this video, I'm going to walk you through just how badly Swtor handled the character of Revan, to the point where honestly I believe they ruined it. We'll break it down with some solid lore references and my own thoughts along the way. If you're into KOTOR or the EU at all, hang tight, this should hit home. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So to really get why Swtor didn't do Revan justice, we should start by looking back at what made the character so memorable in the first place. Back in Knights of the Old Republic from 2003, Revan is basically you, the player. You play as this amnesic Jedi who slowly realizes that they were once the Darth Lord of the Sith. I seriously can't wait till we get to this part in the Let's Play. Before the game, Revan took on the Mandalorians and slipped into the dark side, and almost brought the Republic to its knees with Malak by his side. Ultimately though, Revan is betrayed by Malak, and is captured by the Jedi. His mind wiped, he begins a path to make things right, taking down his former apprentice, and helping the galaxy find its footing again. The thing that hooked everyone was how much control you had. Your decisions shaped Revan's story, from their look to whether they leaned light or dark. It captured that classic Star Wars vibe of finding balance and earning redemption, without making Revan some one-note good guy or bad guy. They were kinda in that messy middle ground, which is what made them stand out in the expanded universe, as this thoughtful, almost philosophical presence. Now let's shift to Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, for a second. KOTOR 2 takes place about 5 years after the events of KOTOR 1. Revan isn't the main focus anymore. You're the exile, picking up scraps of info that suggests Revan headed off into the unknown regions to deal with some bigger Sith danger. But here's the small part, they don't spell it all out for you. Just these little clues and echoes. Chris Avellone on the writing team used that to dive into ideas about the Force's two sides and what war does to people, with Revan more like this lingering influence than a full-on character. It was a nod to whatever you did in the first game, building Revan up as this larger-than-life myth. Sadly, Swtor seemed to overlook that careful touch and went a different route. What I'd really like to emphasize in this video is just how impactful it was to leave Revan's fate a mystery in KOTOR 2, as opposed to revealing it. They drop these hints about Revan heading into the unknown regions to take on some massive Sith threat, but they don't give you the whole story. No clear resolution or big reveal, just enough pieces to get your brain working overtime. And honestly, that setup delivers way more emotional and narrative punch than if they had just laid out every detail. Because the value of not knowing turns Revan into something far bigger than a wrapped-up plotline. It's like crafting a legend that lives on through what we imagine, not what we're told. At its core, ambiguity draws us in because it mirrors how life works. Things aren't always tidy, and that uncertainty pushes us to engage more deeply. When a story leaves gaps, our minds naturally fill them. For Revan, that meant whatever fate you pictured, whether they fall back to the dark side or achieve some ultimate balance, or met some heroic end, felt like a natural extension of your own KOTOR 1 choices. It wasn't the game dictating the close, it was handing the reins to you, creating this intimate connection where Revan becomes your legend. That kind of openness really sticks with you, and sparks fan debates that goes on for years, and even creative spins like story or art that keep the character evolving long after the credits. Knowing every detail, it might satisfy in the short term, but it often closes the door on that ongoing magic, making the experience feel finite instead of endless. I remember when I was a kid playing KOTOR 2 for the first time, that not knowing hit me hard in the best way. My Revan from the first game wasn't just some forgotten hero. The mystery made them feel like this shadowy legend, out there somewhere shaping the galaxy from the edges. It gave my playthrough this epic, almost personal weight, like Revan was still alive in my head, off on some untold adventure. That feeling of wonder kept me coming back, imagining all the possibilities, and made the character so much more than pixels on a screen. It turned Revan into a myth I could claim as my own. And you see this done right in other stories too, where leaving a hero's end undecided amps up their impact. Take Goku from Dragon Ball GT. You guys know I'm a big DBZ fan. At the series close, he rides off into the sunset with Shenron, and his ultimate fate is left a mystery. Is he just gone for good, ascended to some higher plane, or just wandering eternally? That ambiguity fits Goku perfectly. He's the boundless fighter who's always pushing his limits, and not knowing lets fans dream up his next big adventure. It makes his character feel infinite, like he could pop back up at any time, which mirrors how legends work, always ready for the next tale. Even take King Arthur from the Arthurian legends. After his final battle at Camlann, he's mortally wounded and taken to Avalon. But the stories never confirm if he dies or just waits to return when Britain needs him the most. That once and future king idea has kept Arthur alive in culture for centuries, inspiring everything from books to movies. The mystery makes him more than a historical figure. He's a symbol of hope and revival, where the unknown fuels endless retellings and interpretations. If the legends had pinned down a definite end, Arthur might have faded into just another old tale, but the ambiguity is what turns him into an eternal hero. It's the same with Revan. The best heroes and characters across history often bow out this way because it captures something human. We crave closure, but thrive on wonder. Knowing Revan's fate in full, like Swtor does, might wrap things neatly, but it shrinks the scope. The mystery invites us to co-own the story, keeping Revan vibrant and debated in fan circles. Swotor's concrete answers feel like they clip those wings, turning what could be boundless into something bounded. For a character that was built on choice and depth, that loss of potential is huge. Mystery isn't just a trick, it's what makes legends last. If BioWare had embraced the ambiguity, Revan could have stayed this evergreen icon, sparking new content without overwriting personal visions. Instead, it feels like they traded infinite possibilities for a single path, and that's a big downgrade for someone as iconic as Revan. Alright, so let's map out what Swtor did with Revan so we can spot the issues. The game is set around 300 years after KOTOR, and it starts tying things together with the 2011 novel Revan by ℂℍ𝔸ℕ𝕼𝕗. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his last name. Revan and the Exile go after the Sith Emperor Vitiate in the unknown regions. The Exile doesn't make it, and Revan ends up captured, stuck in stasis for over 300 years while Vitiate siphons off his energy and feeds off his broken mind. In the actual game itself, if you're playing the Republic side, you free Revan during the Maelstrom prison flashpoint. He's out, but clearly not the same. Switch over to the Imperials, and in the Foundry flashpoint, which if you guys remember we played quite a bit, Revan's got this plan for a droid army aimed at wiping out the Sith bloodlines. He gets beaten and disappears, or so it seems. Then the 2014 Shadow of Revan expansion brings him back as the head of the Revanites cult. Turns out that death in the Foundry actually split him into a light side spirit and a dark side version of himself. The Dark One wants to bring Vitiate back just to destroy him on Yavin 4, leading to this big raid in the Temple of Sacrifice. Once that's over, the parts come together, and Revan's spirit moves on with a heads up about more trouble ahead. It extends the story, sure, but it seems geared more toward MMO stuff, like the flashpoints and the raid fight and, the boss battle, than keeping Revan true to form. BioWare tapped into nostalgia, but it came at the cost of some real character consistency. A big problem with all this is how Swtor pushes Revan right back into being the bad guy, almost like it was just to set up a cool raid encounter. KOTOR built Revan around redemption, tumbling into darkness, and then choosing to climb out. In Swtor, though, after all that time locked away, Revan shows up scheming about genocide in the Foundry and running a cult in Shadow of Revan?
Does it make sense? No, it does not make sense!
And then it ends you just fighting him as a boss. I don't know, it just seems forced. Like they wanted a familiar face for the action without thinking how it fits into the bigger picture. To me, all these things it just doesn't seem like Revan would do any of this. Not the Revan I know. He was supposed to be about finding equilibrium, not bouncing around alignments. Having them slide back after so long, it takes away from what KOTOR achieved and makes Revan feel more like a tool for the game than a fully realized character. And then there's this whole thing where Revan gets divided into light and dark versions after the Foundry incident. First off, we've never seen anything like this done in Star Wars. It just doesn't seem like it would even be possible. But breaking the canonical limitations of the Force aside, what made Revan great in KOTOR was how they blended those aspects, a true gray area Force user who owned the complexity. Splitting them up like that turns them into something more basic, like some internal battle gone literal. It diminishes their original achievements, like outsmarting Malak or uncovering the Sith threats, by suggesting unresolved turmoil was always lurking. The split feels like a plot device to justify Revan's comeback, stripping away the holistic depth that made them stand out in the EU. And finally, the concept of Vitiate keeping Revan on lockdown for 300 years doesn't quite add up to me. Someone as sharp as Revan getting trapped that long without finding a way of wrapping things up? It's mostly there to link the eras, but it feels a bit too convenient and not fully thought through. Beyond that, Swtor uses Revan more for fan appeal, slotting them into things like raids. Revan shifts from your character to a scripted NPC, losing that personal touch. So wrapping this up, Box Bros, Swtor really didn't do Revan justice. They let go of the mystery, they pushed a villain redo on him, and added layers to his story that softened the overall character's impact. KOTOR's open approach was way more compelling, giving us space to imagine.
Revan was power. It was like staring into the heart of the Force.
Of course, a lot of this is opinion-based, but as I said, my opinion is the canon opinion of Star Wars. Don't you guys forget it. If you agree with anything I've said or just want to talk about it, go leave a comment down below, and don't forget to hit the like button, guys. And of course, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this, where I take the deep dive into the old KOTOR canon and explain why it is the true canon of Star Wars. Alrighty, that's it for me today, guys. Until next time, the Boxman will catch y'all later. Peace out, Box Bros.